Practicing Python. We're talking about strings in Python practice. I think this is video number 7. In this particular one, we're talking about format operators. I use format operators a lot in Python, but I often take them for granted, not really knowing exactly the parameters for using them until I hit an error. But in a review, I think it's important to pay attention to this particular tool. This is practice for Python. We're doing our string section of Python for Everybody. That's the text we're referring to. There's classes that use the text, and the text is available online. The format operator looks like a percent sign if you look at it, and it's actually the key you want to hit. With this, we can construct strings with data variables. Well, here's our data variables. Buses. That gives you an integer or a digit. Bus 1 gives you a string. And don't forget to put the string in quotations, because the last time we did the string without quotations, we didn't exactly get the value we wanted. If you want to make it look like a word when it comes out in the output, you need to put quotations around it. Bus 2. Bus 2 is a float. Anything with a decimal point is definitely a float. Now here we've got our print statement. We have a print statement inside the parentheses, and inside the quotations, we have the string we want to print. But right here, we have the format operator sign, and behind that, we have a D to determine what format we're going to use. Whatever letters behind the format operator tells you what format you're going to use. For this one, I remember it by D digit, but this leads you to a number like 68. And back here, after the quotations, we have the format operator and the actual variable it's referencing. So this one right here is the correct format for 68, the value 68. Second print statement here, again in parentheses, and the sentence we want to actually appear or print is behind quotations, but this time our format operator is followed by an S. Now the format operator for S means string. I think it's the easiest way to remember it. S is for string. And back here, at the end of the quotation, outside the quotation, we have a format operator and the variable it's referencing. And that's bus 1, and that's going to reference us to the string we're looking for. Here's our third print statement. A third print statement says there are 3 things. We have a string, we have a digit, and I skipped one, and we have G. G actually stands for float. I don't know how to rightly remember that, but I remember that because if D is digit, S is string, I know G is going to be for float. But here we have, outside of our quotations, we have the format operator, and in parentheses, we have the variables in order, because this string has to correspond to a variable that has a string value. This float has to correspond to a variable with a float value, and and this format operator for digits to a variable that's going to give it some sort of integer. And we put that in parentheses because we know we can apply this format operator to each thing inside the parentheses. One thing you don't want to forget is the closing parentheses in your print statement. And then you already see the answer. Well, let's see if it runs again. Boom. Now, again, I'm running on Colabs. This is Google Colabs. So when we hit the, looks like a play button, we're actually running the code. So here we go. There are 68 buses. The format operator D, we sent it to format for the variable buses, and there's 68. There are pink buses in the park. Format operator was for S, so that's a string. And in bus 1, it says pink. There are 3 things. Pink, that was the first one. 445.3 That was for our float, which has a format operator followed by a G. And 68 was our ending one. Now, you might say, hey, I can put that in any order. Not so with Python, and I'm going to show you. It does it in the order that it occurs. So I'm going to run it, and you're going to immediately see what Colabs does. When I run it up, it's red. So now we know that we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff, and here's a red line that tells us where the problem is in the code. And we're waiting for it to pop up with a solution. There we go. The first two sentences are fine. There's no red line on the first two sentences. But the second sentence says type error. Okay? That means that they're not in agreement. What we're using with our format operator and what it's calling for is not in agreement with the variable it's being associated with. So it shows us right here with a big arrow, thank you very much, must be real number, not string. So we have bus2 right here. Now, whatever it says here, we know that bus2 is a float value. It's a variable with a float value. And it doesn't agree with the call here for the format operator of a string. Doesn't agree. So you get the big arrow. Simply put, the order matters. Put it back. Run it again. Awesome, great, amazing. And what this even does, why I like to use format operators, when you have just a basic setup and you're going to be printing this information again, but maybe something changes over time and you no longer have 58 buses. Say you only have 30 buses for this particular instance, and say you know, bus 2's value, again, is going to be only worth 35.3 for whatever reason. And you just want to change it here. Because often you're not just having a line, you have this particular variable, maybe different places in what you're setting up. Especially you're setting up for a different kind of printout. And you just want to change those values. You don't want to go through the whole thing and like recode it. And it's easy because you just do it, and here you come out. There are 30 buses in the park. Change 30 corresponds to buses. We still have pink buses because we like pink. And then when we come down to the actual float, it's 35.3. That's your format operator. It seems really simple, but if you're not clear on which actual format you're calling for, it can kick an error out in no time. And it's a type error because you have to use the correct value with the correct format. All right, thanks so much. We're practicing Python with strings. I think this is the last thing we're going to do with strings. As I check over on the side, yep, because the next thing it has you do is a whole bunch of really cool practices in strings and exercises. So awesome practice. Thank you so much. And have fun. Fool around with it. Mess around. Put in different things. See if there's different format operators that you can use.